Welcome to Musings, Rants, and Guitars, back for the first time in 2022. It is January 27th, and we have a special guest, Andy Aledort, on again.
Andy, what's happening?
What's happening, fellas?
We are live on Facebook, and we've probably forgotten how to do this and actually ask questions
I'm sure.
and talk to people. So, where do we start, Andy? It's been quite the year for you. It's been quite the year for us. You've been really busy. Joey and I have just been really lax, not really doing anything. And I think the highlight of my year is every couple of weeks when you and I speak. But you, still coming off of that great Stevie Ray Vaughan book, decided that you should put out a double CD.
Yeah. The Stevie Ray Vaughan book, for those who may not know, in August of 2019, so I guess that's 2.5 years ago, I wrote and released a biography of Stevie Ray Vaughan that I wrote with a friend of mine named Alan Paul. And the book's called Texas Flood, Inside Stories, Stevie Ray Vaughan. And the book did very well. It made the New York Times bestseller list.
It did?
And it's still selling really well, which is great. Stevie was a guy that I got to know. I got to play with him once, and I interviewed him many times. And if you look on the back of my double album, this guitar right there, that's my old 61 Strat. Stevie would play that every time we get together. And one of the last things he ever said to me is he said, "I still love your guitar." And, the tie-in between that book and this record is there is a track on this record that was recorded with Double Trouble. Stevie Ray Vaughan's rhythm section of Chris Layton on drums and Tommy Shannon on bass. And that song is called Have Mercy on Me. And so, that track is a good example of what sort of everything, all of this material, 18 songs and over 100 minutes of music. I had a lot of songs in the can that had never been released on a record.
Yeah.
Some of them needed nothing. They just needed to be mixed. Some of them needed one guitar. They need one vocal. Some of them needed more than that. And so, COVID had something to do with finally getting around to addressing all of these songs. And the first thing was I had to fix all the machines that were broken, which was my DA88 multi-track digital 8-track machine and my DAT machine, my DA30. And once those were fixed, I had access to the music on these tapes that I did not have for well over a decade, probably 15 years at least. And the DA88 now does not work again, but it kindly worked just long enough for me to bounce over what I needed into Pro Tools from those original 8 tracks, and then we could work on those songs. And so what Light of Love, the album is, the double album, it represents songs that were written and recorded over the last 27 years, going back to the early 90s when I first put a studio in my office here. But like I said, had never been released. And so I couldn't be happier about it. It came out really great. I did it with Bob Stander at Parcheesi Studios in Huntington. I've been friends with Bob for 45 years. He's a tremendous engineer. He's a tremendous musician. And it was really great to do it with someone who's been a friend for so long. And the record's doing very well. It's been on Spotify for, I think today is day number 12. And we already have over 16,000 streams of the song Light of Love, which is pretty good.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So that's over 1,000 streams a day. And then it's on digital radio as well. It came up at number 147 on the top 200 chart on digital radio. That it entered at 147. So I'm doing what I can to promote it through these different entities, and did an interview earlier today for a feature that's going to be in Guitar World. Andy Timmons, if you guys are familiar with him, phenomenal guitar player.
Yeah, just a little bit.
He told me he loved the album and wanted to interview me about the record for Guitar World. And
You
so
know,
that's what we
Wow.
did. So that's
that's
going to be really cool.
that's very cool. And just to interrupt for a second, so listening to the record, and you saying it was over the course of 27 years of pieces and parts that you all put back together, but I think the beauty of what you did with Bob is it sounds as if it were done now,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
So and the it's not, it doesn't sound like, I took this from this record and that from that record and made a greatest hits record and somebody compressed it into whatever. I think that all the sounds were brought out beautifully and consistently across the board. For something you said is 27 years old at pieces, and some of the stuff's brand new, but I think it all meshed together beautifully. And it comes out as a full record that's has a beautiful flow to it.
Oh,
Uh,
cool. Yeah, everything sounds of a piece, like
yeah,
there's the songs all flow into each other and the
yeah,
sounds, go together. And, you know, um, there were people who said that they were actually very surprised by that because I tell them, I'd say, well, some of the songs go back to the original recordings go back to 1994, and they were thinking it was going to be sort of the songs would sound different from each other, but they were all really well recorded. So it was just a matter of whether it was Vito Luisi's drumming. Vito played with Johnny Winter for 10 years,
yeah.
or it was Sam Bryan, who plays drums with me now. He's a
Just
phenomenal drummer.
great
His
guys.
drum tracks were all brand new,
Okay.
like from probably in September or October. He did his drum tracks, and then the other songs, the drum tracks were done in 2008, and that's a drummer named Rich Rosh. Um, but nothing really changed very much. It's almost every song is my old 1961 Stratocaster, and I'm either using my 67 Blackface Super or a 100-watt Marshall. And so, uh, it didn't really make a difference whether it was 25 years ago or 2 months ago. It was the same guy, the same fingers,
Yeah,
same voice, you know, same old microphone, same old studio.
yeah. Well, again, there is, it's not, it's simply not a guitar player, blues blast record. There are parts that
Right.
are bombastic that really come out, and people can hear that it's absolutely a Strat into a 100-watt Marshall on some of the stuff, and you can tell that. But there's some beautiful, touching acoustic pieces as well. And I think people, need to, as you are promoting this, there's there's the opportunity for you to be on, soundscape with some of these things, on that sort of radio, um, because some of the instrumental pieces are beautifully delicate
Yeah.
and and touching and moving. I think one, I really felt Untitled, went into Michael Hedges territory, and I thought it was how if you listen to Michael Hedges, it's moving. Listening to him, it really is, and I think it's just as emotional when you're doing that. And not to compare, I'm just saying, in my mind, I was like, wow, this is just something that's, you know, not what I expected when it comes up Untitled, because you and I, we've jammed and we've talked about things and we've listened to different things that we've done. That's just, us meandering, right? That wasn't that. That was just, a stunning piece.
Oh, cool. Yeah, Untitled is an interesting one. Acoustic guitars are front and center on that, and it's a relatively clean lead guitar tone.
Yeah.
Um, that main theme I wrote a really long time ago. I mean, I feel like my son, who's 29 now, I think he was 4 years old, and it was sort of like a little riddle on the guitar.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
in some ways it's not unlike a Message in a Bottle by the
Right.
Police.
Lyrical.
Just
Yeah.
the way the chords, they're all suspended second chords, which is like Message in a Bottle.
Right.
And so it was a little tricky, like that was part of the attraction of it when I was writing it, was a little tricky to play, to weave the melody,
Yeah.
this ascending melody as the chords changed, the melody kept ascending. It was like kind of a fun, little puzzle to put together. And it's very different from any other song on the record.
It is, and and that's the reason why I like to bring it up, because people, I know a lot of people want to get the record and they want to hear you do what you did, and for example, on Have Mercy on Me, they want to
Right.
they want to hear the band, they want
That's the Double Trouble track.
Right. So, I mean, they
so
definitely
people know
wanna-
that's a big blues like
yeah, it's
Jimi
a big,
Hendrix, Johnny
yeah,
Winter,
it's
punch in the face.
yeah, it's a hammer. I wrote down in my notes, it just hits you like a hammer. The fucking thing just comes on, and you can tell who's playing. You can tell it's you. You can tell it's
It's this. It's as subtle as a sledgehammer. Yeah, definitely.
exactly that subtle. So, and it's beautiful. I mean, again, and then there's still some other delicate pieces on there too, and there's that, and there's strong, and there's strong songs. Again, you and I have talked about this. The single right now with the video for Out for a
Out
Ride.
for a ride? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll actually I'll put that up behind us a little
Yeah,
bit.
put that.
So-
I mean, tell us the story of that, because I mean that's just it's beautifully lyrical, right? And it's you did a great video, and I want to talk to you about the video part briefly. Is watching you do it. You were pretty much note for note playing that. Were you dubbing that? Were you doing I'm doing a video, and you were playing it. I was watching you because I do that to you. I just watched, like, he played it exactly how he wrote it, and that was pretty impressive. So,
Do we want to let people hear it for a second, or should we?
Yeah,
No, no, I'll
I
just
got
keep
it down
talking.
behind us.
yeah.
All right. Yeah. Oh, maybe the vocals will come in a second.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, they're kind of hard to hear though.
Well, I had the
All right.
video on. Maybe what I'll do is I'll put the video. I'll play the music behind it.
So
All right. Well, so I'm glad you like that song, Tommy, and I like that song a lot myself. In fact, we had a rehearsal yesterday because we were slated to do an in-store on Saturday.
yeah,
This Saturday at Better Nature Records in Sayville from 3 to 6 p.m. The owner, Michael's going to do a Q&A with me about the Stevie book and about the record, and then the band's going to play. None of those things will happen if there's 2 feet of snow. So,
nah, my gig's already canceled for tomorrow night too. I mean Saturday.
yeah, so I don't know what's going to happen, but if we end up canceling it, it's just going to get rescheduled.
Right.
But when we were rehearsing yesterday, of the songs that we're playing, we've only played Light of Love like once or twice. Save Something for Me and Mike as a duet have played a variety of times since I wrote it, which is 14 years ago. But all the other songs we'd never played. And when we went, we started to play Out for a Ride, it was like I was playing it and I was going, man, this is a really good song. Like, whose song is this? It's like this is pretty solid, It's, the opening lick that's on acoustic guitar,
Yeah.
that arpeggiated thing. Believe it or not, it was inspired by Ohio, by Crosby, Stills and Nash, or Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Goes from D to F to C.
Okay.
That's what happens in Ohio.
Yep.
But then I went to G. I changed the sort of the arpeggiation and the melody, the inherent melody and the rhythm of it, but it was inspired by that for sure. just sort of picking through those chords and not strumming them. And then the song just kind of grew from there. But I also, before I wrote any of the music, I had an idea of what the song was about and the lyrics. Right. And, just the phrase "out for a ride," going out for a ride, leaving it all behind for the very last time. It's about checking out, and, you could check out in a lot of different ways.
Right.
But it's really about someone who is at that point feeling like, maybe that's what they want to do, like whatever that would mean. And the lyrics are very impressionistic and sort of cinematic. The second verse, or the first verse, light crash into my eyes. It's time to realize the day has finally come. Here and now, here and then it's gone. Like this important day came, like a realization, and then the day has already passed. Meaning, like, what are you doing? Like, are you going to act on what you have learned? From this realization. Light has crashed into my eyes, and it's time for me to realize. And then the day came and it's gone. So, what are you doing? Second verse is falling through the night, trying to make everything all right. I waited outside your door, trying to get a little more. And that's, to me, it's just impressionistic, painting a picture of something, So, there's a lot of pieces in the song, elements, a very specific intro. There's a harmonized guitar solo in the intro, slide guitar, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, solo that's pretty Stevie Ray Vaughan-like to me. Very like blues, heavy blues rock. And then it breaks down to this sort of like marching band, sort of, snare drum thing, and a bass solo. And I played the bass solo. And so it's an interesting arrangement. And then there's a lot of vocal harmonies, 3-part vocal harmonies through the tune. So if there's any integrating factor in all of this, is what I was aiming for was like a pop sensibility, where each one of these things had a hooky element. It felt hooky. And so that's what I was really, going for. And I feel like it worked, and that's why I picked it to be the first song to go to digital radio.
It's an excellent choice. I mean, there's again, there's multiple tracks you could have done, and you will still, but and it's a beautiful breakdown of the song, Andy.
Oh, cool.
I like that. I like, to really understand, where you were coming from with that. I know you've had the song for a while too, and I don't know why you didn't put it out sooner.
What's interesting though is having gone through the process of putting the songs together, finishing all the songs. I'll tell you one thing about Out for a Ride is even though it was done in 2008, I never was in love with the vocal that I did on it and the vocal melody that I sang. And then at some point I stumbled, like literally stumbled on the first demo, and the vocal melody was completely different. Like I was shocked. I had no memory of it. And it completely changed the whole vibe of the song. And it actually made it more Doyle Bramhall like.
I didn't want to say it.
Why not? You could say it.
No, man, because dude, it absolutely feels like Doyle and Charlie. It definitely feels like an artist.
That's what Joe Bonamassa said.
Yeah, I mean,
he said, "I like the Archangel's vibe on it."
Hey, that Archangel tune you do?
Yeah.
All right, so when we drag them up here to New York, we're playing that song with them.
Well, he would probably dig it. I've known Doyle a long time. Doyle's a good guy.
Yeah. I think,
And for what I do think there's a little bit of a symbiotic thing going on there between some of Doyle's music and my own.
Absolutely, because his range is beyond, the Archangel stuff is definitely collaborative, but when he does his own stuff, it's certainly more. I mean, there's funk on your record, and acoustic and really soulful stuff, like Doyle would do.
Well, I mean, his last record,
Pretty good record.
was it called Shades? It's not called Shades. What was it called?
Something like that. I can look it up, but it's a good record.
Well, I talked to him about it, and I said, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but like I'm getting a heavy Shuggy Otis thing,
I was getting the same. I think I said that to my sister when we were listening to Strawberry Letter 22 or 23.
23.
And I go, you know what? This freaking Doyle stole everything from Shuggy.
Well, so Doyle said, well, the whole record is pretty much, me trying to be Shuggy. Or Shuggy.
There's far worse things than us trying to be Shuggy.
No, he just copped to it instantly. Which was cool. He's like, no, it's definitely Shuggy. And Shuggy's cool because Shuggy had his own way of putting together
It was his own
the influence of Freddie King and B.B. King and blues guys, but contemporary funk for the times.
Yeah.
Like Me and My Woman.
Yep.
And then you get to, Freedom Flight and Inspiration, Information, and Strawberry Letter 23, which is like amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Just, again, you're topping off his career with a huge pop song,
That was his thing, though. And that's, I think, there's such an allure. I grew up with the Beatles. The Beatles were the first,
Who?
Yeah, there's some group from Liverpool. And so, I said to Andy Timmons today, it's like, my elementary, middle school, high school, and college was the Beatles, in learning about, like, what music's supposed to be. And so the attraction of a good song with good lyrics and a good hook, like everything's a hook. And then, it's fun. It's going to sound stupid, but it dawned on me while watching Get Back, the Beatles documentary. It reminded me that I had sort of forgotten that George Harrison was my first guitar hero. Like, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I was 7 years old and I was watching the Beatles and I was going, I love them, but that one guy, there's something going on with that guy over there who's not singing as much as the other guys. But he seems pretty preoccupied with the guitar.
I know we've had this conversation, I think even probably the three of us talking about the fact that how did miraculously those four people end up together?
Well, if you read Tune In by Mark Lewison, which is only a 700-page book.
Oh, yeah.
That ends in February of 64. And he's writing 2 more books. It'll tell you everything you need to know about how those 4 guys ended up together, which is an amazing, crazy story. It's like a miracle.
It to me, it would just have to be a miracle because things like that haven't happened again. There's you can take one person here and one person there. Look at.
Well, and they were the first. They were a phenomenon. But they were really a first. Like, they were the first band. Like, there was no guy.
Right.
It wasn't Buddy Holly and the Crickets. It wasn't Gene Vincent and the Blue Caps. It was the Beatles. And they were a 4-headed monster. And they all dressed the same. And they wrote songs. They wrote their own songs. All the time.
All the time.
Yeah. Almost all the time. They did some covers.
Yeah, they did, but but they got up and went to work. Like, it's time to go.
And they invented this thing, which is the rock band.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey,
the 4-piece rock band.
There's Bruce Harvey.
I know Bruce.
Do you? Okay, he says, "Hey Andy, Light of Love is great. Textures and layers are great. Any more albums planned?"
Oh, there's many more albums planned. Tell Bruce that his book and CD, if he has not yet received it, he will receive it in the next day or so. Please tell him that. Because I was waiting for books. He ordered a Steve Ray Vaughan book, and the books didn't come in until a couple days ago. So I just sent his package out.
On its way, Bruce.
But, oh God, I have so much more music. It's crazy. I probably have 3 more albums worth of songs ready to go. So I don't want to rush it. I just did this one. And I'm broke. So I have to wait till, save up another couple dollars.
So you're not raking in all those rock star.
Oh man, those sweet streaming royalties that we've all heard about.
Oh, I love that, man.
Yeah,
that is
one of our
so
songs
good.
just passed. We got really lucky. I mean, we got one of our songs passed 100K on Spotify, and we'll see it 3 or 4 years. We'll see like $200 or something.
That's great though. You got 100,000 streams. That's killer.
Yeah.
It is killer. The song is killer. Bob produced it.
Yeah.
And
what's the name of the song?
Hang Down.
Oh, awesome, man. Yeah. I think we're on the same playlist, or one of them.
Yeah, I think so.
That classic rock playlist. I saw you guys on there.
Yeah, that was our second single one hit on that one. So hopefully.
Yeah, now I have two. I have 2 songs, Out for a Ride and Light of Love are both on that playlist, starting this morning.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's all about getting on the right playlist.
It doesn't hurt to be on a playlist that has 1 million followers.
No, that doesn't hurt, man.
Yeah.
I want to be on the same list as, what's her name, Grande.
Yeah.
Phil Grande.
Phil Grande, that's
Yeah.
fine too. What is her name? Ariana Grande?
Ariana. Yeah.
Ariana.
Yeah, I had too many D's in there. Wait a minute, that didn't sound right.
Hey,
There's no D's.
hey,
0 D's.
I'm not getting my D in there anyway.
There's no D's. There's no double D's.
what did she say in the movie? Don't look up. You fucking old man. Fucking look at me. Sorry. Now I've hijacked this. So
Anyway, so COVID happened, and I put all these songs together. And to answer Bruce's question, I have so many more songs, but I gotta wait. So the plan really is, it's going to be February like any second. Time is flying by. And I was thinking of going back in the studio in like April or May, but right now that's feeling way too soon, because I still feel like I'm at the very beginning of promoting Light of Love.
I think so too. I think I know you don't stop writing, and I know you won't, and I know that you like to also record some of the free flowing music too, to get some things together. But yeah, I would definitely ride this, because the songs are great, and again, there's going to be, I think that there's definitely the potential for several more singles off of this, right? Just to
Save Something For Me will probably be the next one. What's interesting is, that's a ballad. It's, to me, very Jimi Hendrixy, like May This Be Love, or One Rainy Wish, or something like that.
Yeah, it's a great vocal too.
Oh, thank you. It's totally live. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, your vocal take is great.
It was totally live. And so when we cut it in 2008, I remember thinking, we should redo those vocals, and I'll redo my guitar solo, and all the typical stuff you think.
Yeah.
But I said, well, I want to put a couple acoustics on it, because I'm in the studio working. What you do what you do, right? Part of your job. And then all these years later, still thinking I'm going to need to redo all that stuff. It's sitting at Bob's, and I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, it's totally live, and it's really good, and the vocal's good, and the guitar solo actually is really cool.
Yeah.
Like, there is a thing. Can It Be is another song. It's completely live in the studio, so that shit's really jumping when it's live. And then
Can It Be's funky.
Yeah, it is.
So
and Have Mercy on Me was live. That's the Double Trouble track. That was recorded, just rhythm guitar, bass, and drums, in around 2001 or 2, live. I had gone down to Austin to do a session with Double Trouble, and then we got to the end of everything we needed to do, and the engineer said, you got another half hour. And so I said to them, can we record one of my songs? And they said, show it to us. I showed them the song in like a minute.
Right.
I mean, probably without any exaggeration, it wasn't longer than that. And then we played it one time.
And locked it.
And then we went in to listen. Chris's drumming is phenomenal. Chris Layton's drumming, and Tommy's bass playing. But Tommy had his bass in his hand, and he said to me, there's a couple spots. I don't think I really played exactly the right thing. So let's fix those spots. So we punched them right away. It was like 3 spots, And then it just sat on a drive for almost 20 years. But the intention being I was going to put a vocal and lead guitar and cut it live also.
Okay.
Like one pass,
Right.
And so I did at Bob. So we had the mic set up. We had a super loud super reverb in the other room, but it was tons of bleed because it was so loud.
Yeah.
And the take, what you hear on the record of Have Mercy on Me, I mean, it sounds crazy live, like completely live.
It is definitely, you can feel the amp move when you're listening to it. I mean, you can.
Yeah, and the good vocal and guitar are so married to each other in a very Jimi Hendrix, Johnny Winter way.
Incredible.
And it was fun to, like next time you talk to Bob, ask him. It was fun to just know, like, I have to bang this sucker out of here, like 5.5 minutes from now that we're done. Like, go. And there were like 3 spots where I, wrecked my motorcycle, and so we had to fix those. But the trip had been traveled, if you know what I mean. You know, like the momentum of the playing was there. The story was told because it really was like a live performance of, the continuity of the playing.
I mean, you went through the whole thing and just touched up. It's like painting a room, right? It's like, okay. Just
you go back and cut in later the little spots.
Tiny things.
Yeah, so those things didn't change the momentum of the singing and the playing.
Right.
That was what I wanted to capture. And I was just telling this to someone. I think I don't know if did I mention that Andy Timmons interviewed me for Guitar World?
Yeah.
Yes.
I couldn't remember. And I didn't think I mentioned it while the show was on though.
Hang on. Let's do a quick ad for his pedal as well.
Which one is that?
I got the black one with the red.
Oh, it comes in black?
Yes, that's why I was like, shit, I'm getting this one. And notice that because I'm retarded, I had to put OD, so I knew which one to press.
Oh well, that's okay. No, that's the Andy Timmons AT Plus pedal by.
Oh my God, we were talking. Andy and I were.
That's
talking
what's
about
on that song. That's the only.
Is it?
thing.
Is that what it is? Because good God, that's a great.
Well, you'll love this part. So it's just my Strat, that pedal, super reverb on 7, and that's it.
Dude, how could that not sound great?
So
I mean,
Timmons
seriously.
asked me when he heard it before the record was done. I sent it to him, and he's like, "Dude, like, what is that sound?" And I go, "Oh, it's some piece of crap pedal some idiot made." And he started laughing because he knew what I meant. And he goes, "Well, I have to go do this jam tonight. It's like a blues jam, and I'm just going to bring one amp, and I don't want to bring a pedal board." And he has sitting there, when we do the video shoots for Guitar World of his lessons, you see the whole wall of amps behind him, the Marshall heads and the Mesa, Mesas, and he's got a couple of Blackface Supers. I said, just plug into the Super. It's right there with your pedal.
Yeah.
And he's like, what knobs? Tell me the settings on everything. And so I just told him the settings that, the best of my recollection on the pedal, held up the pedal and showed him and told him on the amp. And it was very funny because we were doing, remote video shoot. and he plugs everything in and puts the amp on all the settings, and he starts to play, and he's like, "This sounds so good." And I was like, "Yeah, do that. That'll work."
Call me when you need more tips.
Exactly. And Timmons is known for, having a pretty distinct and wonderful guitar tone,
Yeah, you certainly can tell him on his records.
Yeah, he's cool.
It's very, very.
We have another question. Richard D asked if you were ever going to write your own autobiography.
That is a good question. I guess if I'm going to put out an autobiography, I would have to write it. Is that how it works?
Yeah,
Yes.
there's
Maybe.
like this thing.
Or
I
go
can't
for
write
it.
an autobiography of someone else, or no one else could write an autobiography of me. That's not possible, right?
Right.
God damn it.
You write most of the articles for the magazine anyway.
What if it's like Mr. Peterman on Seinfeld, who he bought his life stories from Kramer. No, I'm Kramer. I'm Peterman. I'm the real Peterman. Sorry, I didn't mean to make fun of the guy's question at one bit. I started to write things that would be my own autobiography, or my biography, which is known as an autobiography. And so if you go on my website, andyaledort.com, stop laughing, Tom. There is a link, or it's in my blogs. I started writing these chapters that would be in the book, and in the book I already have a title and a cover idea and everything, and I want to call the book, hopefully there will be a book someday, called The World on a String, and the cover will be like a horizontal guitar neck, and then like a broken string hanging down vertically, and the earth tied in like a little bow, swinging, the world on a string, literally. And the subtitle would be the wayward musings of the ramblings of a wayward guitarist journalist, which is the best way to describe me. And so I started writing some chapters. If you go on my website, andyaledort.com, and look at the blog, there's a chapter, it's pretty long, about Dickie Betts. Getting to know him, and then him asking me to join the band, and very specific stuff about like my first day down there with him and almost getting arrested, getting pulled over by the cops. It's a great story. And so I started to write some of these things, and there's some smaller, like little, I call them short takes, like little vignettes. Story about being with Willie Nelson on Willie's bus. I was with Betts, and we were in Bangor, Maine, and sharing the bill with Willie, and the buses were on the opposite sides of the parking lot, and Dickie got up, it was late afternoon, and he goes, "Oh, I'm going to go say hi to Willie." And he walks off the bus, and he's just about to knock on the door of the bus, and then he looks behind him, and there's 14 people behind him. We all followed him, and he was like, everybody was like, "We want to meet Willie too." It wasn't 14, but it was at least 8 or 9. And he knocks on the door, and this voice goes, "It's open." And opened the door, and it was Willie's drummer, and Willie's drummer goes, "Oh, hey, Willie, it's Dickie Betts." And we hear Willie's voice. He goes, "Hey, come on up. I got the shit that killed Elvis."
Just.
And then we go up, and Willie's sitting in the booth on the bus, and there's like a mound of weed in front of him. And he's rolling joints with one hand. He's not even paying attention. Hey, hold on one second. I'm sorry. My dog barked.
Yeah.
Yes, people, this is how we do this.
This
You don't
is how
really
we do it.
understand. This is not unusual for us. At any time, I've seen people walking in the background for you, Joey. I don't know what is that, the laundry room?
Yes.
Sorry, fellas.
No worries, man.
Anyway, so it was just like, so I wrote about that. So, hopefully one of these days, I'll continue writing But I have to say, once I got really into like working on this record and it being a double record and really getting immersed in like songwriting and playing and recording and writing lyrics and like just like music, original music,
Yeah.
it's created this momentum and a connection that is sort of informing like everything I do. Like Mike DeMeo, my keyboard player, said he feels like my playing is different from working on the record. I think he's right.
Well, when I saw you a couple of weeks ago, the intensity you were playing, right? And I, you and I talked the next day, just like the way you were locked in with Craig and Sam, right? I mean, and Mike, it was just, I, I, I thought it was, for me, it was very intense, and just seeing that, and I think your intensity playing, but I think it was for me, and maybe for Mike too, it was a little bit. I think you came across a lot stronger because other times I've seen have been, like more poppy gigs, right? So I mean, you'd be playing with Jason or Chris or somebody, and um, or depending upon the venue, right? Because there's certain places here that you lean a little more towards, a dead sort of style. If you were at Bose or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. The gigs dictate different
Right, the
things.
gigs dictate, but I think you dictated this gig, the last gig, and I think your playing dictated it. That's my
Well, and yeah, and I do think that having worked on the record and feeling stronger or whatever, like it's not even a conscious thing. It just
right.
happened. The connection is just there. And I mean, I like all guitar players. I feel like I'm never practicing enough, and I can't
Right.
play, and my playing sucks. And but we were rehearsing yesterday, and I was soloing, and I was like, it sounds like I warmed up. Like, when did that happen?
Oh, and you mean you just picked up cold and you were feeling and you were
And
ready
it was
to go?
sounding really good to me. Like I could hear it sort of third person. Like this sounds like somebody who actually can play the guitar. Um,
That doesn't happen here, but
oh, come on. But I think that on a subconscious level, working on the record and being so immersed in it has made things clearer to me about the connections and what I want, the things I want to come out. They
yeah.
seem like they're more sort of clearly and right there.
Well,
It's
I
just a
definitely.
clearer picture, and I think that's what Mike's point was that working on the record helped me to have a clearer vision about the sound and the music and everything. I think he's right.
Definitely a conscious immersion into it, right? I mean, just and then becoming unconscious. Sorry, man, we can get existential, but I mean, it really started. You were so immersed that it just flowed out of you like that. I mean, that's my
Well, I mean, that's
take on it.
like we're talking, we're here talking, and we're not thinking about uh, how that we're putting the sentences together because we're just trying to talk and communicate, you know, and music should be the same thing. There's no time for analyzing or thinking or like, oh, like if you tried to walk down the street thinking about each step you took, you would
You'd
fall
fall
down
over.
100 times.
Yeah, yeah.
So, um,
Try breathing.
yeah, exactly. So that's if you want to play music in that way and coming from the same place where it's really all about being immersed in the moment and like that sort of same sense of discovery and sound that the audience is going to have, you have the same thing. I'm up there listening to, I feel really lucky. Sam Bryan is a ridiculous drummer. Craig
Incredible
is a
drummer.
ridiculous bass player.
Craig's
Mike is a
incredibly good.
phenomenal
Yeah.
keyboard player and singer. These guys are such good musicians. Every time I play with them, I'm like just listening to them, like, God damn, man, like they are so good. And I mean, I have a joke with Sam that nobody needs to go to the gigs anymore because Sam's drumming is so good. He should just go by himself.
No question. I mean, just in the locked in between Sam and Craig is incredible, and then and you on top of that, and Mike's Mike's just a phenomenal player and great to be around. too. So I mean, there's a lot that goes into that too. So
Don't be alone with him, though, Tom.
oh no, certainly he's not watching my children.
Did you see Stephen Colbert the other night where he did a segment called "Stephen Colbert is watching your children"?
No, I'll find it though.
Oh, it's great. He was like, "I want to thank my writers for coming up with the creepiest name for this segment."
It truly is.
He's like, "Hi, kids."
So,
Anyway, working on the record has helped me just, for the moment anyway, zero in a little better on certain things.
yeah.
I think just from working, hours and hours and hours and hours on every last detail of sound, it changes your the calibration in your brain of sound.
Sure it does. It's like when you're immersed in it, you can definitely tell. I mean, if I spend a few days playing, coming out of that, your brain is still in that play.
Yeah, it's a great place.
It's a great place. It really is.
It's a place you don't want to not be in. When you've been in it for 4 months. I was in it for 4 months.
You definitely want to you want to stay there.
Yeah, because it reaps benefits.
It does. It really does.
It just feels so good. It's like a great feeling, and then it makes it easier. Like it's getting. At least I shouldn't say anything. But if I say to myself, I'm practicing, noodling around, typical, and then I'll just say, write something right now, which I'm doing all the time now. Like almost every time I pick up the guitar, after a few minutes, I say, write something.
Yeah.
And more often than not, something comes out that's worth investigating.
That's an incredible feeling.
Yeah, I'm hearing it better. You know what I mean? I'm playing it and then accepting it almost immediately for, okay, this thing came out and there's something that's interesting, cool, catchy, hooky about this riff. And then right away you're like, okay, well then what melody is going to go over this riff? And is it going to be a vocal melody or a guitar melody or start as a guitar melody and then followed by a vocal melody? You're off to the races once you have something.
It sounds like it. Definitely, if to look at the whole picture like that is amazing. That's great. I mean, I guess it's like sculpting. You have to see where everything's going to go. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, if a sound, like it's a frame of mind thing. It doesn't always work, but like I said before, you can create a sense of momentum in your creativity, certainly, and in a more immediate sense in your guitar playing. Like if you're practicing and you're more on top of your chops. I mean, in sports, they talk about a guy being in the zone or playing unconscious. There's different terms for it. It's because they're in touch with the, whatever you call them, biorhythms, of the whole thing.
It's a Zen-like state.
Yeah.
Because you're just, every single piece naturally flows together, right? So,
yeah, and you get out of the way. You can get out of the way and you can hear it. Yeah.
That's the challenge, getting out of your own way with that stuff, too. So let it come out of you.
So eventually, maybe by the summer or next fall, and I'll give, I need to give this double album. There's a lot of music here.
There's a lot of music.
Give it time to roll out, and I need to save up some dough or buy a money printing machine.
Well, you know what? It's going to snow. You and I can get the shovels and hit the streets.
There you go.
That's the worst idea.
That's the worst idea I've had. Come on, I've had worse ideas.
Oh yeah, he's had some pretty bad ones.
Don't
that one's up there. That's up there.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a couple of guitar geeky questions, right? Since we do have some.
I'm going to take another bite of my salad while you put that question together.
Oh my God! It's only going to take me a second.
And before he even talks about that, Robert Harmon says hi.
Oh, hey, Robert. Great dude.
And Bruce came back with a quick quirk. But I want to make sure I get all these in, so I don't want to make sure people. Bruce said the idea of vignettes is great. Each one is a song on the album of your life. Write it. If you have a lot of perspectives and a lot of insight into the music world and many interesting stories.
It's true. Each one of these things, you know, what's the term? It's like, you know, links in the chain or whatever you want to call it, or links in the fence, because it's not a chain. It's more like a wall.
It's.
I was talking to Andy about one time I did an interview with B.B. King. I interviewed him a few times. He's a wonderful person. And why I thought this was a good idea, I have no idea, but I didn't think it through. I thought at the end of the interview, I had written out these 10 like classic B.B. King licks that are, I wrote them down, in music. And I thought, I'll play the licks for BB, and then I'll ask him if he has any story about, because they're such signature things that he does.
Right. Okay.
Forgetting that I was going to play BB King's licks for BB King. Okay?
When did...
Which was in like 1991. And so we had an issue of Guitar Extra, which was my own magazine for a while, and BB was on the cover. And so I tell him, I go, BB, like you have so many signature licks that people know you for, so I'm going to play a couple and, tell me if there's any kind of story about the lick or, whatever it might be. Thinking he'll say, oh, like that came from listening to horns, it's like a horn line, or that's more like a vocal line, or like, I don't know what he would say. So I play the first lick, and he goes, and let's say it's like, like something like that. Typical blues. Well, it was like 7 notes, 8 notes or something. And he goes, well, when you go from the first note to the second note, like go a little slower. So I do it again. And he goes, when you do the bend, like on the 4th note, like get to the bend quicker and make it a little louder than the other notes, like something like that. So I'm like, all right, and then I do that, and now everybody in the room is now listening. The photographer, other people are all like, and then I play it again, and he continues to tweak, like each note the way it's articulated in this 8-note phrase. And I'm realizing, like, I thought I played the lick right the first time, but to him, it couldn't have been more wrong, because it didn't sound right. So finally, after like 6 or 7 tweaks, I play the lick, and it sounded just like BB King. Like, I was shocked. I went do-da-da-dee-do-dee-do-da-dee-do-da, and it sounded just like BB King. And I went like this, and he goes, yeah, like that. And I was like, that's it. Like, I have nothing to say. I don't even know what to say.
What have I done?
It was the coolest thing in the world, because it was like, you think that, like, it's a bunch of notes, or something that you learn and put them in, correct sequence. Sure. That's like nothing. He sat and listened to it and went, it's not BB King, I'll tell you how to make it like BB King, if you do what I tell you to do. And what an incredible lesson that was, about listening.
Yeah.
And talking. Talking with your instrument. He just goes, yeah, like that. And I was like, that's it. Like, I'm out. You blew my mind.
That's for the book, man. That's a great story. I mean, it really is just a, you know, he's also that aware of his playing, like this is how I do it.
And I think he was trying to answer my question in as honest a way he could, which was like, well, you're asking me like how I do what I do. You know what I mean? Like in his mind, it was like he was answering that question.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to say it like I would say it, I'm going to tell you, how to just tweak it here and there, make it more like me.
Right. This is how I would say it. I mean.
Yeah, like your question is my lick. Like what's my lick about? So let's get the lick right. And then when we got the lick right, he went, yeah, that. And I was like, that's it. Like, like I don't know anything.
Yeah. Well, let's try another one then.
No, we were done after the first one. Because it was like, that was like 10 encyclopedias of information right there. I mean, I went to, there's this thing you can watch it. I think it was done for Cinemax or something, but you can see it either on YouTube or rent it. Les Paul's 75th birthday concert.
Yeah.
It was recorded at a Brooklyn Academy of Music. And it was 1986, I think. No, wait a minute. 88, I believe. And I think we just found out Tracy was pregnant with Rory, who was born. So it must have been 89, in the very beginning. Now I'm all confused. It was 88. Anyway, I'm ruining my story. But there were all these amazing people at the show. Eddie Van Halen was there, David Gilmour, Jan Hammer, Waylon Jennings, Brian Setzer, Steve Miller, I think. A whole bunch of other people, all fantastic people. Eddie came out, he was amazing. B.B. King was the last guy. B.B. came out and he played one note. And the tone wasn't even good. And it was like the most musical thing of the whole night. How? How is that? How? I don't know.
I don't know, man. He used those L5s, those amps, too.
The Lab Series.
Lab Series things. And just...
like, I don't know what it is. And Stevie Ray Vaughan told me the same thing. Like, he shared the bill with BB. And he said that sometimes it would be booked where BB would open for him. And he would say, oh, no, that's not happening.
Right.
There's no way BB King's going to open for me. So I'm opening for him. And then Stevie would say, so he'd play his set, put his heart and soul and everything into it. And then he'd go stand in the wings and watch BB. And within the first minute, he'd be like, I am the whitest motherfucker that ever fucking lived.
It's I don't know. It's no comparison to me, but if I put on Meter's record and play along with it, I'm just like, this is a fucking idiot. I'm just like, what am I doing?
Well, I mean, we're trying. For a bunch of white people, we're trying to do the best we can. You guys have seen that Albert King and Stevie Ray Vaughan together called In Session. It's a whole video, and it's also audio. It came out as a record.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Stevie plays phenomenally well. I mean, there's no two ways about it.
Right.
And it's early. It's 1983. And you can see he's completely enamored with Albert, who's his biggest hero in the world.
Right.
And Albert is completely tickled pink by Stevie, who he clearly loves. And Albert plays really, really well also. And so in the book, in the Stevie book, there's a guitar player named Derek O'Brien from Austin, and he said, so that happened in 1983 when Stevie and Albert played together for a Canadian TV show called In Session. And you can watch it on YouTube, and it's so great. And so it was like a week or two later, Albert King came to Austin to play, and Derek saw him, and Derek knew him. Derek's a great guitar player. And he said, "Hey Albert, I heard, you and Stevie got together for that Canadian TV show." And Albert was like, "Oh yeah, it was great, He goes, "Stevie played great." And then he paused and he looked at Derek and he went, "But I had a step on him." Like it doesn't matter. Like in the final analysis, I'm going to kick his ass.
Exactly.
We
have another question.
Yeah, I have a question up here, up in the chat. Rich Correo, so he's a regular on the show. Is there any player that you have encountered in your career, celebrity or not, in studio or on stage, who played on a level or in a pocket that left you questioning your own current playing abilities?
Everyone.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
Everybody I've ever met.
Everybody who I've stood next to. Yeah.
Very much. I wouldn't, describe it in that way. Questioning my own ability. When I was 16 years old, I saw Mahavishnu Orchestra at Carnegie Hall in 1972. And they were a brand new band, and their album had only been out for a short time. I had no idea what they were going to sound like. Absolutely none.
Okay.
Nobody sounded anything like that before Mahavishnu Orchestra showed up. Nobody sounded like that after they showed up either.
True.
Especially like the first two records, like Intermounting Flame and Birds of Fire. Forget it. There's nothing like that. Even McLaughlin, like after that, with other Mahavishnu orchestras, which were great, it wasn't like that. And I don't think I took a breath for an hour and a half. I mean, and I just kept envisioning going home and throwing my guitar in the garbage, because it was that mind-blowing. But, by the next day, I used all of that, fear and enthrallment to be inspired to try to start learning to play their music and get more serious about playing. Like, well, if I'm going to even get within 1 billion miles of that, I better start practicing all the time. And so that's what happened. And Pat Metheny told me a story, same thing in 72. He was going to University of Miami, and his classmates were Jaco Pastorius and Steve Morse. And maybe Mike Stern. I'm not sure if Mike was there too. And Mahavishnu Orchestra showed up to play University of Miami, and for some reason, they played in the cafeteria in the daytime. So it's almost like a scary movie, but it's not at night in the dark where it's, like all the things that are supposed to be scary.
Yeah.
It's in the daytime, in the daylight, and it makes it 100 times more scary.
Because there's no getting away from it. Yeah.
Because it's like, it's not in the dark. Like, it's like, this is like, right? This is like, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon and this is happening. It's like, and Pat Metheny said, first of all, it was the loudest thing I ever heard in my life. It was like a 90-minute earthquake. And he said, the second thing is, we all walked out of there, our DNA had been completely rearranged. Like, no one was the same after that hour and a half of what they just witnessed. Every person had been completely, altered. And so, I don't, I look at it in a few different ways. One is that everybody's different. And so, if I do my best to play the best I can play, I'm going to sound like me. I'll try to figure out what that is. So it doesn't matter. I have to try to find something to say on the instrument that's going to be worthwhile and mean something to me, and then hopefully mean something to someone else. And if that happens, then it has value. It's not about whether you can play what somebody else could play or anything like that. Like, you'll never No one's going to out Albert King, or out Jimi Hendrix.
Sure.
It's silly. Dickie Betts told me that, when he was 14, he had this realization really young, and he said he was really glad he had it. He was trying as hard as he could to play like all of his heroes. And then he realized that all of his heroes sounded unique to themselves, whether it was Chuck Berry or, Jimmy Bryant or Howard Roberts or saxophone players, like Sonny Rollins or Coltrane. And so he realized very young, I need to start figuring out how to sound like me. And if anybody has a unique sound, it's Dickie Betts.
He does.
So when you look at it like that, it's silly to be intimidated, by someone else being a great player. Hopefully it just inspires you to work harder.
Certainly it would inspire you. I definitely feel that way when I see some of these people. I mean, sometimes, it can be intimidating, but yeah, it is definitely, it should be inspirational. All right.
Good.
That's,
See, I think
again,
Rich was actually just trying to get the "fuck you" question in there without saying it. I think he said it a nice way around it. Like,
It pretty much did. That's definitely true.
right?
We'll get to that. So let me get back to what I needed to know, because
Yes.
I'm completely on a fuzz kick. So, Space Dog, what
Yes.
fuzz did you use on that?
Okay, so Space Dog is pretty cool. Space Dog, believe it or not, is a Line 6 pod.
That's it. The kidney bean. That's it. End of the interview.
Yep.
We got to go.
We're out.
We're out. He's saying,
But it's not just the pod, because that wouldn't sound like that. There's a guy whose company's called Ron Sound, and maybe you've heard of Ron Sound. He makes pedals, and he's like Analog Mike, or really, but on a smaller level. But Ron Sound, whatever his name is, Ron something, has great pedals, and so I had heard a long time ago that he was making a replica of a Fox tone machine. I don't know if either of you know what that is.
Yep.
Oh, you both do. Okay. So the Fox tone machine had red felt on it,
yes.
and two knobs, volume and distortion, and a switch for octave. And I thought it was, all these years, I thought it was called a Stone machine because it's a Fox tone machine. And if you say it quickly, Fox tone machine, sounds like
Fox
a
Stone.
stone machine. So Ron very cleverly called his clone a Stone machine. And so I got one. And it's the Stone machine. My guitar is plugged in the Stone machine into a pod.
Wow.
Direct into Pro Tools. And it sounds insane.
It sounds insane.
Yeah.
It sounds massive.
It's just massively crazy.
But guess what else is just a pod? It Don't Bother Me, which is also like a massively heavy, fantastic guitar tone.
Wow.
Yes, I gotta. It's another. My note says it's just another massive Texas blues tune, and that's like another Kidney song. Great.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. At the time, I was doing an instructional book called Blues Rock Guitar Masters, and I was using the pod, and it was working out to replicate the tones of like people whose tones were not similar. I did 2 Jeff Beck tracks, both songs from Truth. I'm doing my best to replicate these songs very accurately, and they came out well. I did Rock My Plimsoll and Let Me Love You. And then Leslie West, I did Mississippi Queen and Dreams of Milk and Honey. Richie Blackmore, I did Smoke on the Water and Lazy. And Johnny Winter, I think I did Still Alive and Well and Rock Me Baby. Jimi Hendrix, I did a few. Stevie, I did a few. But everything was with the pod. And it worked out really well. So I think that's why when I recorded both those songs, well, no, not Space Dog, but It Don't Bother Me was around the time I was working on that book, so it was sort of like the stuff that plugged in.
Right.
And there's an Ottawa that's not part of the pod. It was a, I can't remember, it's over here somewhere. I think it was an Ibanez, not a Maxon. I
Okay.
think it was the Ibanez Ottawa. And it's loud, really loud on the track, the way we have it mixed.
Yeah.
And it's really insane sounding.
Then I'll
But
have
that's
to-
also live too. Like it's everything you hear was like if the song's 5 minutes long, that's how long it took to do that guitar pass. Like that one guitar. It took 5 minutes. Then the other guitar is 5 minutes. And the solo is 5 minutes. You know, like I didn't overthink stuff and punch in like a psychopath.
Right.
Not at all.
Then I had to ask about the other Killer Fuzz one, which is the $100 of Love It.
Oh God.
So how did you do that one then?
I don't know. That's an interesting case. The reason it's called $100 of Lovin' is about 10 years ago. A guy I went to college with in 1973 named Chuck Vritachik reached out to me in 2012. So how many years later is that? 40?
40.
And he said, hey, I'm still alive, and so are you. And I have this idea for a record. I just bought a guitar for $100 off of eBay, a no-name Japanese piece of crap. And I'm going to ask as many guitar players as possible in all different styles of music to record something with this guitar to prove that the guitar, that you don't need an expensive guitar. And in fact, 75 different people could use the exact same guitar and come up with music that sounds really good. And it turned out to be true. And so part of the deal, there was no pay involved, of course, and part of the deal was the guitar was going to show up and you had a day to do your track, and then the next day you had to send the guitar to the next person. And so the guitar showed up and I didn't do anything. And then they called the next day and they go, did you send it to the other guy? And I went, well, no, I didn't do the track yet. And they're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, if you gotta send it to the other guy, you're going to do a track? If you're not going to do a track,
Did you not read the instructions?
you know, you're going to have to send it if you're not going to do a track. So what's going on? I'm like, I'll do a track. I'll do it.
Oh shit.
And so I stole the drums from a different song that still is an unreleased song, but was recorded in my living room, Vito Luisi, on my son's drums, his Tama Rockstar kit. And wrote this song on this $100 guitar. And I used like 5 different tunings. It starts at open C. And I have no idea. I mean, I really don't. It's probably my Super with like a tube screamer.
Yeah.
I don't remember. It feels like it happened in like 5 minutes at the most, because I had to write this song and record it, and they were yelling at me to go to FedEx and send it, you know, box it up and get it to the next guy. So, you know, the song was very instantaneous. You know, like, I mean, every part of it was written and played, like, in the moment. Now, right before the guitar solo, I knew I wanted to use a wah for the solo.
Yeah.
And I must have plugged the wah in backwards by accident. And when you plug a wah in backwards, you get ooh-yah, ooh-yah,
Yeah, you get that
you know?
sound, yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is cool. So I just record, like I hit record, and then I went step on the wah, and that's what, so it went to tape, you know, to Pro Tools. Ooh-yah, ooh-yah, ooh. And I was like, that's kind of nice. So
That was my next note. I was like, what the fuck wow was that?
So I copied the track 2 more times, and then I dragged them, like, you know, time spaced apart, and panned in different ways. So it's like ooh, ooh, yeah. So I call that Seagulls on Acid. And then the Seagulls on Acid, takes you into the guitar solo, which is pretty blazing, I must say.
It is blazing. Wow.
And it's a fun song. So I'm happy I stole it off this compilation record I did 9 years ago to put it on my own record.
Cool. Awesome. Those were a couple of the geeky questions I had for that. So
how about You Shook Me? That's a kind of a psycho guitar sound.
I didn't want to touch that because you absolutely did exactly what Jeff Beck did. You tortured the fucking guitar
in the beginning. Yeah.
You just took it and just wretchedly beat the fucking notes out of it.
Well, Beck said in the liner notes, he goes, "The last sound you hear is my guitar getting sick. So would you if I punched your guts for 2 minutes and 28 seconds.
Yeah. You just... it is a great way to close the record. Just to have it. Oh, by the way, I have some pretty tracks on here, but here's this.
Well, you know what's funny? The sequencing was a big deal.
Yeah.
Because it was so much music. And when I got... It didn't take a long time to do, but it did take some shuffling and a few different approaches. The basic approach was that it was going to be 2 discs, and so I wanted each disc to exist, if possible, as its own record. Like if you were to take it,
Sure. Okay.
as a record on its own, that each one be a good record. And so I felt like, oh, there's the sound. It's like Froggy Goes a Courtin'. And then because it's 18 songs and 17 of them are originals. And then it was like you just said. The thought was, well, I'm going to send people on their way when we're finally done with the one cover. It's like a sort of a nice way to say, to close it out. And You Shook Me is like this perennial blues classic that Zeppelin did and Jeff Beck did, and it's been done by everyone, and everyone knows it, and it's great.
It's a great. It's a it's a blues staple. But I mean,
yeah, it sure is.
You did it beautifully, and again, it is a good way to show people out the door too. Of the record.
Yeah, it seemed like a good closer.
Good bookend. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
And if I was going to describe the guitar playing in any kind of a way, I think that, not that this was intentional at all, it was just sort of pointed out to me later, that it's very Frank Zappa. And Frank was a huge influence on me. So if I listen to it that way, I can hear it for sure.
I'll listen back to it like that, and again, just to hear the influence of them, but your playing and vocals on it are just a great way to bookend the record.
Bob felt it was very Frank Zappa, and he's a huge Zappa fan. And so right from the get-go, he was mixing it like a Zappa song that's a slow shuffle, same groove, called 200 Years Old, which is on Bongo Fury, I think. So then I said, well, then let's try to make the vocals sound like the same effect that Frank has on his vocal on 200 Years Old. And so it's sort of in between 200 Years Old and another Frank song called Wonderful Wino.
I don't know that.
It's sort of a slapbacky kind of a sound that's not unlike John Lennon's sound on Instant Karma.
Yeah.
Okay. That everybody knows, that sound.
Right.
So it's similar to that, where it sounds split and there's more than one. But it's not as kind of wet sounding as the John Lennon, artificial double tracking sound, ADT, which is sort of Elvis-y. That's what John was going for. Like, Sun Sessions Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
So I didn't want it to be that as much as like the Frank thing, but it's similar.
Interesting. Same idea. Cool. Well, then the couple of final things. So things are interesting with the Friends of the Brothers as well. You've got.
Oh
that
yeah,
going
that's
on.
really good to talk about. We got signed. We
Yeah.
got signed to the Mint Talent Group, which a guy named C.J. Strock was at William Morris for years. He booked the Allman Brothers,
Okay.
and some of his other clients were Chris Stapleton and like big people. And then in March of 2020, like, you know, quite unintentionally coinciding with COVID showing up, he left William Morris, took two guys with him, and opened his own agency called the Mint Talent Group. And then in December, you know, just a month ago, Alan Paul is my co-writer on the Steve Ray Vaughan book, but he also wrote a book about the Allman Brothers called One Way Out. And like I said, CJ booked the Allmans for years. So he's known Alan a long time.
Okay.
And CJ has come to see Friends of the Brothers. And so people who don't know, I have a band that Alan and I put together with a guitar player named Junior Mack, who's a phenomenal guitar player, phenomenal singer. He's just great. And initially, it was also with Peter Levin on keyboards, who was also a phenomenal player and a great singer, who had played with Greg Allman for 3 years. So he had me, played with Betts for 10 years. Junior played with JMO for 14 years. Peter played with Greg for 3 years. Alan, who wrote the book about the Allman Brothers and was very close friends with Butch and had known Greg for years and was like on the inside track of the Allman Brothers. And we were like, well, what happened was, and it's just so funny, like today was pretty much the 5-year anniversary of Butch Trucks passing. I think it was yesterday. I'm not exactly sure. Might be 1 day off or something. But it was 5 years. And Alan said to me, hey, why don't we do like a tribute to the Allman Brothers? You know, it's so sad that Butch is gone. And Greg had died not that long before that, a couple months.
Yeah.
So we said, let's do a combined tribute to Greg and Butch. And we did it at this place in New York City that was called American Beauty. I don't know if you remember that place. It had a lot of different names. I can't remember.
Yeah, but it was. I remember it was an American Beauty for a bit.
Yeah. And, you know, Alan is so used to networking with all the Allman Brothers sort of people and live for live music and these different platforms. So he pushed it really hard, and we were like, what are we going to call it, you know? And so the name Friends of the Brothers was a good name. You know, it seemed accurate. And it sold out. And that was the germ for what became Friends of the Brothers, which within about a year and a half after that, we actually started doing gigs as a band called Friends of the Brothers, filled out by Dave Diamond on drums.
Yep.
Lee Finkelstein on drums. We always have two drummers. So we try to have Dave and Lee. Many people might know Lee Finkelstein. He's a guy from Hicksville. Funk Philharmonic was his band going back to the 80s. He played in the Blues Brothers. He played in Tower Power. He's phenomenal. Great dude. And but sometimes we'll have Van Romaine, who's also from Long Island, who played with Steve Morse. And sometimes we'll have Sam Bryant, my guy. Craig Privet usually plays bass. You know, he's a phenomenal bass player.
Phenomenal bass player.
And then Pete Levin is in Nashville now, so we usually can't get Pete. And so we'll use Mike DeMeo, or we'll use Eric Finland. He's another keyboard player who played with Greg briefly. Eric is in a band called E3 with Eric Krasno, the guitar player, and Eric Halb, the drummer. Okay. He's a terrific player. And so CJ had seen Friends of the Brothers many times, and so we were surprised, you know, very pleasantly. He said, I want to book Friends of the Brothers because I think the band's really good, and you're carrying on the tradition of the Allman Brothers music, playing this music, playing it well, and there's no more Allman Brothers, you know, sadly. And so, you know, CJ just feels very personally connected to the music of the Allman Brothers, and he liked what we do. So we're already booked for Peach Fest, this summer, which is great. We have 2 gigs coming up: City Winery in New York City on March 4th,
Okay.
and a place called the Broadbrook Opera House in Broadbrook, Connecticut on the 5th. And so, COVID notwithstanding or anything else, as we venture forward, Friends of the Brothers is a fun project, and I'm happy to, get signed by a great agency, and looking forward to the things that we're going to be able to do,
I think it's great. It's just the opportunity to continue some of that great music with the people you've worked with. Peter, being in Nashville is tough, but I mean, he does a lot. He does the work with Jason and Isabel and his wife Amanda.
Oh yeah,
right?
Pete is
so he's
so busy.
certainly busy, and but I'm sure he would happily play with you guys too. So I mean, I don't think. It's
He loves it, but he's
Yeah.
the guy's very busy.
Yeah.
And then Lamar Williams Jr., the son of the guy that was in the bass player for the Allman Brothers, he's an incredible singer. But same thing, he's in Atlanta and he's in 5 bands.
Right, and that's the thing. Peter and even Dave and Craig. It's amazing.
They're busy too, yeah.
Yeah, everybody, and it's great. The reason why all those folks and yourself are busy is because you're just great players and very musical. So.
And I have to say that, it's a very happy band. Like this group of people, when we show up to do a gig, it's like, it's just a pure joy, like all the time.
Yeah.
It's really, really great. I think it's because we're all used to being band leaders. And when you have a band of all band leaders, it's like, it's the greatest feeling. Because each guy is ready to do more than just his job. It just makes you don't feel like you have 7 guys. You feel like you have 14 guys,
Right.
pulling all pulling in the same direction.
Awesome. It's awesome. I look forward to seeing some of the shows. Hopefully I'll get to the City Winery gig. I'm definitely going to. So.
Awesome. So we should tell people, if they want to get a CD from me, personalized, and an actual CD, and they might even have a CD player, which is, unusual. They can send $25. It's a double CD. Some people are like, $20 for a CD. I'm like, there's 2 of them in there.
It's a double CD.
So $20 for the CD and $5 for postage. So $25. Send it to paypal.me/Andy Aledort. Or Venmo is Andrew-Aledort-1. And, give me your address and I'll personalize it and I'll send it out to you right away. Or you could download it or stream it from iTunes, and certainly stream it from Spotify. And it's on, the gigantic myriad of streaming services, which includes, Amazon Music and YouTube Music and Tidal.
The videos are out. The lyric videos are out, and the actual video for the Go for Ride and.
Oh yeah, were you going to ask me about the fact that you'd see me playing all the parts in that?
Oh yeah, well not only that, you were playing it accurately. The way it's filmed, right? If people understand, video is cut back and forth, and I've done videos, and my playing is nowhere near yours, but you can't. Sometimes I can get near what I played, but you were playing pretty much note for note on a dead straight on camera of what you played on the song. And
I was trying to.
and it's beautiful, because I always pick that.
It's funny. There are spots where it's like, wow, that really looks like those notes are like what's on the record.
I know, it's like it looked like you could hear it. You digging in. It's like, wow, he's real.
When it works, yeah, the illusion is fantastic.
I don't know. You and I have had the conversation about some of the techniques of some of the people you do demonstrations of and stuff. And one of the things was with Gary Moore. right? And just the fact when you would play Gary Moore licks, you use your middle finger to do the stretch. So I mean,
I was trying to,
Yeah.
I mean, Gary played so much, almost like Django Reinhardt, like between these two
it was
fingers
like
with
that.
these crazy
So, yeah.
stretches, and the sound is different too. So
The sound is different. That's why I was watching you, and my brain goes to that bend, that way you hit it, the way you dig in. I was like, I think he's playing that.
Good.
So it came.
I try to make it, as Milli Vanilli as possible. I don't know if I'm Milli or Vanilli.
I think I'm hillbilly. So
some people prefer Milli
some people do.
over Vanilli.
So let's all right. So people, this is all going to be posted on YouTube. All the links to purchase the CD, purchase Andy's book. Also links to.
And we have this in-store happening if we don't get snowed out, which is Saturday, 2 days from now, January 29th from 3 to 6 p.m. Better Nature Records, 56 South Main Street in Sayville. And we have books for sale and CDs for sale. And then the band's going to play. Or else we'll all be at home looking at the snow.
Andy, I was just thinking, you know what? If we're all available, let's grab some gear and let's go to Partners and play tomorrow night. Saturday night, and just fuck it. Because we're not going to do anything.
Dan would probably be happy.
Dan would be happy. So.
All right, tell him.
If all goes to hell, then let's figure that out. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Joey.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, thank you guys. But you know what? We didn't do the signature
stuff.
Oh, the last thing we have to do is fuck you to people.
Yeah,
so,
we didn't do the signature thing. Come on.
This is how we're going to close out because we are out of practice, and this is all going to get put up on YouTube so that we can enjoy this and spend a little bit of time. So, Joey, why don't you start with a little fuck you before we
I don't have one. I'm still trying to get everything on over here. Do I have one?
I don't know. Hold up the CD.
Yeah, I have the CD. So I have it framed up my room. It's in my office. You're the only one who would give me a fuck you on my CD.
I know,
so.
an actually.
So that's my favorite one right now. So. It's sitting. It's propped in front of the Kotzen sign one.
it's blocking out.
Did Richie give you a fuck you also?
No, he wouldn't do it.
No, he's got an order of protection.
Yeah, I can't get Richie on the show, so we keep trying.
Loves him so much.
We got Billy. We figured once we had Billy that he would talk to Richie, but I guess Billy said, "No, don't have those."
He went, Joey.
Yeah.
Hey, whatever.
So
you might have to go with CC DeVille.
Look, we don't have enough cocaine.
You know what? It's the show's done virtually, so you can offer him virtual cocaine.
Yeah, there you go.
I know. Like, here, have this. So
yeah, hold your hand out. Oh man, this stuff is powerful.
Dude, get any more of that internet?
I'm gonna snort off the top of Tom's box.
Wow. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I'll give you a quick fuck you. You know, the two guys that are doing dual guitars and Whiskey Myers, they got a show coming up here on Long Island that is probably not going to sell out, and it should.
I know. I gotta actually get my ticket. I'll do that tomorrow.
What do they call?
Go.
Well, Whiskey Myers. They're kind of got
really
the
good.
Skinner thing going on, but yeah, a little more updated.
Yeah, it's cool stuff.
Yeah, it's a cross between country and rock, and not that I'm a super big country guy, but there's some great stuff there.
The Skinner thing is like happening now.
Yeah.
In a lot of new bands.
Yeah.
I think these guys do it beyond compared to anybody else.
There's a band called the Georgia Thunderbolts. Is that the name?
Yes. Another cool band. I think it's a kickback to all those bro country bands, that had been out, where they're like half rap, half country.
Yeah.
White guys in a pickup truck. Just,
Oh, like that stuff is so horrible.
Yeah.
Oh,
Baseball cap on backwards.
yeah, and just not good.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
What is going on?
I don't know. Try and just.
But you know who's also booked by Mint Talent is Blackberry Smoke.
Really?
So
That-
we
yeah,
are
they're-
in the same, corral
Those guys.
roster with them. And
Oh my god.
I played with Charlie Starr when I went played the Beacon first week of December.
Yeah.
Sat in for the Allman family reunion with Devin and Dwayne Betts, Devin Allman and Dwayne Betts.
Yep.
And lots of great guests, Eric Gales, Robert Randolph, Jimmy Hall, Joanne Shaw Taylor, Lily Hyatt, John Hyatt's daughter.
Eric's a force of nature.
He is, and his new record's great. And anyway, Charlie Starr was there. It was my first time meeting him. And just the nicest. I always heard he was a really good dude and great dude, nicest guy. And he sounded great, He, a good player, good singer.
Yeah.
Nice
Was it
tone.
Jason
Eric.
Todd was the one who was like, you gotta get Charlie on your show. Like I've reached out to Charlie. He hasn't reached back yet, but we keep hoping. But
Oh, reach out
yeah,
again.
Jason is a big fan of Charlie.
Yeah, good dude, man. It's nice meeting him.
So, Andy, who do you have for a fuck you? Because
Well, I've told you last time, like I don't think that way. So I don't know. I don't have a fuck you for anybody. In the sense of that you mean it, which is like you
No,
like someone so much.
Right.
That it's like, oh, they should go jump in a lake or something. Of course, I'm going to flip it over and turn it into something else. So, one of the most, by far, inspirational guitar players for me is Pat Martino.
Yeah.
And I studied with Pat in the late 70s, and nobody played like Pat Martino, like not even close. His chops are completely nuts. The fastest, cleanest, endless stuff. Endless. Brilliant. His vocabulary. It's just... And he just died a couple of months ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was very sad. And, I took lessons from him in 1978 and stayed in touch with him. And some people might know he almost died very shortly after that in 79 or 80. He had emergency brain surgery. They gave him a 20% chance of surviving. But he survived. And he was like 38 years old at the time or something. And he had to relearn how to play guitar. And he was left with, big lapses in his memory. But I stayed friends with him all those years. And in fact, got together with him shortly after the surgery, having no idea that any of this happened. I was near South Philly. I called him and he said, "Oh, come over." And then when I got there, he told me this story about what had happened to him. It was like the most harrowing story ever. And he's like, "Oh, I can't play guitar. Like I haven't picked it up and learned how to, relearned how to play." Like, what? And he not only got all of his playing skills back, he became a better player than he ever was. And so, just in honor of his passing, he continues to be just the most inspiring, or as inspiring as any musician I've ever heard in my whole life. But I got to know him and be friends with him for over 40 years. And so when I made Put a Sock in It, my first album in 99, the last song is called For My Father, and it's a long solo jazz piece that I wrote for my dad, because my dad passed away very suddenly. And 2 days after he passed away, I wrote this piece of music that's very complex, and it was just I needed to do it as a cathartic thing. But it's very much like Pat Martino, and I realized that Pat was like a musical father to me, you know, and he had recorded things that had inspired the way I play and what I wrote for my father. Anyway, I sent him the record, and then he was playing at the Blue Note, and I didn't know whether he, you know, had listened to it or was even aware that he got it or had gotten it. Like I just sent it to him. So it was the end of his set, and he was still standing on stage, and people were coming up and saying hello to him, and I was just waiting, and then, you know, I had my opportunity to say hello to him, and I looked up at him, and he just put both his hands on the side of my face, and he said, "You made a beautiful record." And that was it, man.
Wow.
So, in honor of the great Pat Martino, you know, listen to a record that he put out recently from his personal archive called Young Guns, and I think he was 24 years old. It's a live gig. I mean, I'll never get within like 1 billion miles of playing guitar like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. But I can listen to him do it.
Sure.
Well, thank you, fellas.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to end. Thank you for that wonderful.
Tell Lenny we didn't really miss him.
He'll see the fun he missed.
I did, yeah. I know I did. 'Cause I'm sitting here, like,
kidding.
looking
We
at-
missed
yeah,
him.
of course he did.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
I'll see him. All right. Well, thanks everybody. As this comes up on YouTube, remember, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. The information to get the CD and also a copy of Andy's book, and Andy will put your email up there in case people want to get lessons, which you still are doing.
Yeah,
correct?
absolutely.
So that, and I'll put mine up there, so I will sell you all the lessons I've taken from Andy for cheaper, and we will go from there. All right.
Perfect.
I'd like to say good night to you, Joseph, and to you, Andy. Thank you so much for your time and for a wonderful record. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for listening, and thanks for doing the show. It's always great to see you guys. It's really
See
appreciated.
you too.
All right, fellas.
All right.
See you soon.